But don't take it out on me.
What do you expect me to do? Make believe it didn't happen?
No, and I don't expect you to go to pieces either. Just because two cheap crooks tried to bluff you.
Any bluffing that was done, believe me, I did it. You don't know those two. They're rotten, dirty rotten, and mean clear through. You didn't see the face of one man after they got through with him.
Dear, let's not be afraid. Let's go right to Mr. Lamont and tell him the truth ourselves.
I can't bear to think of what'll happen when Connie finds out.
Well, she's got to find out sometime. We can't go on all our lives like this with this over our head.
I know. Well, are we going or aren't we?
I'll get my coat.
Honest, he's the best-looking thing. Sort of reminds me of you, Daddy.
Listen to that, will you? What'd you say his name is again?
Frank Lloyd Robertson, Jr.
Do you think it might be serious, dear?
Well, I haven't met anyone I liked better. Oh, I guess Frank's sort of special. The real McCoy.
Well, that's great, honey. Just great. And how does your Frank feel about it?
I wouldn't know, but he did ask me to the prom.
Well, you'll want to make a good impression, and Mother and I'd like to help a little. So we'd like you to take this money and buy a new dress for the dance.
Oh, now listen, Dad, I don't need it. I've got a good dress.
Honey, how many of your sorority sisters are going to this prom?
Oh, I don't know. 10, 12, maybe.
And how many of them will have a new dress?
Most of them, I guess.
Well, you're going to have one, too.
Dad, Mom, please, you've done enough. I just won't let you sacrifice one more thing for me.
Darling, it's never been a sacrifice. Never.
You know who needs a new dress, don't you? You've had that suit as long as I've been in college.
It's all right. We don't go many places.
Well, you should. Both of you. When were you last to a show? A movie?
Honey, if we wanted to go to shows or nightclubs or take a trip, we would. That sort of thing just doesn't happen to appeal to us, that's all.
You see, dear, it's our pleasure to see that you have everything you need and everything to make you happy.
Is it asking too much that we should want to be proud of you?
Oh, Dad. Mom, I'll never be able to.
Oh, well, we've got to be going, darling.
Goodbye, Mom.
Goodbye, my pet.
Yep, my turn. Have a good time at prom now. We want to meet this young man here someday.
Thanks for the money.
Bye, darling.
You know, Amy, sometimes we tell ourselves we never got many breaks in life, but that's the biggest break a man and his wife could ever have, right in there.
Hello, Henry. Thought you were going to introduce me to the wife?
Are these the two?
So Henry told you, huh? Well, that's going to make it real easy. It'll save time.
If you cause any trouble, we'll have you arrested.
Mrs. Britton, maybe you better just listen and do as you're told, or somebody's going to get hurt.
Frick, I'm warning you.
You remember Bunky's knife up in the pen, don't you, Henry? And now that we know what a pretty kid your daughter is, well, I guess you know we're not bluffing.
You wouldn't do a thing like that. You wouldn't dare.
Shut up, Amy.
Right, talking, Henry. Real smart. And if you're just as smart about everything else, well, everything's going to be okay.
What do you want?
Tomorrow's the 4th Friday in the month. The night that Lamont brings home a couple of $100 grand in bracelets and rings, so he can take them down to Hot Springs in the morning and show them to his clients.
He locks them in the safe. He's the only one that knows the combination.
It's 10 o'clock Thursday night. That'll give you 26 hours to get the combination. Let me and Bunky in tomorrow night when we get there at 12:30.
No, he won't do it.
Amy, I told you, keep out of this.
Attaboy, Henry. Show her who's boss. And don't try and arrange any surprises. Because now that we know where your kid is, we can get her any time we're ready. You two better be getting on home. You better let her thinking to do before tomorrow night at 12:30.
Then you did let them in Friday night, and you opened the safe for them.
It's like I told you and the police and everybody 100 times. Vic had a gun in my back. I had to open the safe for him.
But as you also said, it's your word against the two of them.
Sure. But what more can I tell you?
Well, I was hoping there would be a little more. For example, the police found no gun.
Blame them, not me.
And then your daughter coming there in the middle of the night. Don't you think that calls for some explanation?
I've told you everything I know. I don't think you can do anything more for me. I guess I just haven't got a chance.
It seemed reasonable to assume there was something more which might help Henry Britton. But since I couldn't learn it from him, I decided to go out to see his daughter. It isn't often a public defender gets into a fashionable sorority house. That is, on county business. But I did. And I found Connie Britton every bit as attractive as her father had said she was. At first she was reluctant, but she finally told me just how she happened to go to the Lamont house at that hour of the morning. One aspect of the Britton case had me completely puzzled. He claimed he was held up at gunpoint, yet no gun was found at the scene of the crime. I questioned him again, but he still insisted that Vic Sampson had forced him with a gun to open the safe. The arresting officer was just as insistent. Both his department and the fingerprint men had made a thorough search of the premises and found no evidence whatever of a gun. Confronted with this problem, I decided to call on Mrs. Britton and get her version of the story.
Whatever Henry told you, that's the truth. And that's every bit I know, Mr. Matthews.
Except I have a feeling that your husband didn't tell me everything.
Well, what do you mean, everything?
Well, things like your daughter told me about a phone call from you that got her out of bed in the middle of the night.
All right, Mr. Matthews, what do you want to know?
The truth, Mrs. Britton, exactly as it happened.
Well, the next day, after they stopped us in front of Connie's sorority house, I kept after Henry, and I begged him to call the police and tell them everything. But it didn't do much good. He just kept telling me that he knew what he was doing. And, well, that night, he wasn't in our room. It was about 11:30. Well, I found him here, by the fire here. What are you doing, waiting up for them?
What else can I do?
What else? Did you ever think of doing what's right?
What is right, Amy? What's right for one person's wrong for another.
How right will you be if you disgrace us again?
Oh, Amy, believe me, I know what I'm doing.
I don't think you do. You don't even know the combination to the safe.
Mr. Lamont gave me the combination to that safe months ago. All I ask of you is that you keep out of this and go to bed.
Henry, for the last time, will you call the police? Let them handle it.
What can the police do? Arrest them for thinking about robbing a safe? Those two would be out of jail in 24 hours. Then what would happen to Connie?
Wake up, Mr. Lamont. At least